investing in female founders or female-led teams actually brings 2 times the return of investing in an all-male team. And really to that point, for us, especially investing a little bit at the later stage B, female founders also exit earlier than male founders on average. And the third one, sort of the third reason that I believe that, we're still waiting for the data to come out on this, but hopefully it will before the end of the year. But what we're seeing sort of colloquially in the market is that you tend to see a real resilience and a real sort of strength in the female founders who, against many odds, receiving less than 2% of capital from venture capital investors, struggling with network, with operational issues. You see these female founders overcoming challenge after challenge and still succeeding. So it's a small number, but my argument is that this small number is the cream of the crop.
Hey everyone, this is Prashant and I'll be host for the VC 10X podcast, and today we have Sarah Antor with us. Sarah is a founding GP at Helena Capital. Helena is a lead investor into female-founded tech businesses ripe to scale globally and raising their Series B+ rounds. The $200 million inaugural Helena Capital Partners Growth Fund I is focused on deep tech, fintech, and impact in Europe and the US. In this episode, we talk about how investing in female founders returns 2x as compared to their male counterparts, how investing in late-stage female founders helps Helena Capital de-risk the investment. Is there a bias against female founders when it comes to venture capital investing? Why more VCs need to start looking out for and investing in female-led startups? Tracking female founders right from the pre-seed stage, even though Helena Capital only invests at the Series B and beyond stage. What are the potential exit pathways and timeline for their portfolio companies, and lots more. So without wasting any time, let's dive straight in. This episode is sponsored by my own podcasting agency called Podcast 10X, where I help VCs start and run their own podcast. While I was running VC 10X, this podcast that you're listening to right now, I asked my VC guests, why don't you start your own podcast? I mean, it's the best form of marketing for VCs. As they say, VC is a people play more than even a capital play. A podcast enables you to put your people at the front, your portfolio founders, your partners, and co-investors. It's a great way to build a brand and win competitive deals. It activates all your marketing channels in a single shot, be it YouTube or blog post or newsletter or social media. Everything gets activated in a single shot. And I get the same response from all the VCs that it's a lot of work and we don't have the time for it. I said, all right, let me handle the work for you, from pre-recording, editing, publishing to making social media clips. All you have to do is show up on a call, hit record, do the recording using the well-researched outline we provide you with, and you're done. We handle everything else. You know what they said? All right, let's give it a shot. So if you are a VC and want to up your marketing and branding game, I'd love to work with you. And if you're thinking there are too many VC podcasts already, remember, there are way more VC firms out there. And if you're not standing out, you're losing out. So if you want to work with me on starting your podcast, go to podcast10x.com and book a call today. I'll add the link in the description and show notes below. Look forward to working with you. Hey, Sarah, so good to have you on the VC 10X podcast. How are you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you so much for having me. Very excited to be here today.
Yeah, it's a pleasure having you on. To start things off, can we first have your story and how you started investing?
Sure. So I've actually been in investment banking for almost 3 decades now. So for me, investing and investment banking has always sort of been part of my DNA. However, in the last couple of years, I stepped back from my roles in corporate and started kind of sticking my toe into angel investing. And one thing led to another, and I started visiting conferences, talking to hearing more and more pitches from founders and talking to VCs. And that sort of piqued my interest. It was a combination of my investing M&A background, where I've worked a lot with later stage and more mature companies. It also connects some of the work I've done with startups in fintechs, as well as my legal background. And it was a little bit of a converging of skill set and mindset for me.
Totally, that's super interesting. And now you're on to Helena Capital, right? And you're on to your first fund. So tell us what's the thesis at Helena Capital and what you're trying to do there.
Sure. So, just piggybacking off of that investment story, part of my my journey really over the last 18 months has been I've had a lot of conversations with female founders as well as women in VC who are working for larger VCs or working for themselves. And it was very quickly apparent to me that there is quite a blind spot for female founders in VC, both from men as well as women. So I often, when I talk about being focused on female-led tech businesses, I get the response from men and women. Are there even tech businesses out there who have been who are run by women or founded by women? And so for me, it was really important to not only do something to sort of solve for this gap and this issue, but also I feel like there is a market inefficiency here. So I actually think there's a lot of money to be made based on this efficiency. So we're focused not just on female-led tech businesses, but we're investing at the later stage. So we're investing once these female-led tech businesses are sort of entering end of Series A, starting to enter Series B. And something that we found out along the way is that we will be the first female-led VC to operate in this space, which was shocking, but also exciting at the same time. And I do believe that that more will follow once we kind of achieve this successfully.
Totally, that's incredible work you're doing there, and that's kind of a valid question. Like, what's the kind of pool of female-led founders at the Series B stage that you're targeting? Basically, what's your target market there? Because speaking relatively to male founders, the number of female founders is less in comparison, of course, right? And tell us about the target market for you. How big is that pool of talent or founders that you're targeting? And give us a sense into that.
Yeah, so it's a great question. The pool is actually a lot bigger than we expected. I think there it's a fair assumption that the number is smaller than what we see from male founders. However, that assumption is in some ways false. So what do I mean by that? When we started to look into female founders, we realized once we started to peel back the onion, we realized that I want to say they're everywhere that we were looking, and there's an ecosystem that I think is a difficult one for traditional VC to uncover, and I would put, if we're going to lay blame, I would put that on both sides. So I think that female founders are hesitant to reach out to male-dominated VCs, and I also think that male-dominated VCs are very hesitant to seek out female founders. And I want to be specific here. So there's two layers when it comes to a venture capital firm, as you know. One is the partners, and there are multiple large VCs in Europe as well as in the US that do not have any, female partners at all. And even those that do have female partners tend to have a very male dominated investment committee, right? So even if you have a female partner who is, or you've got someone scouting for female founders, they still have to make it through the investment committee. So you've got kind of two layers on that side. I do think it's something that VCs going forward can do if they're interested in solving for this blind spot. I think they can do really two things. One, they can intentionally ask their scouts to look for female-founded businesses in their sector, and I think they can also try to hire or promote more female partners and potentially even some females on the investment committee.
Absolutely, that's a very fair point. And is there a way to filter out, if you want to intentionally, look out for female founders? Is there a way to filter out on the basis of, okay, we want female, look out for female founders? I don't believe LinkedIn has any such gender specific filter. So how do you do kind of that kind of lookout?
Sure. I think for the average kind of person, it is a little bit harder, and maybe we need to learn how to tweak our LinkedIn algorithm a little bit. But for VCs, I mean, the general VC population uses software. It uses vendors like PitchBook, and PitchBook certainly allows for. They've got female founders as a filter, female-led businesses. So it's actually quite easy for a company like PitchBook to provide that information to VCs. What I think is probably important for the female founders themselves to recognize is that they also need to sort of make themselves known to vendors like PitchBook, and to do what they can to promote their business, as I'm sure they're doing. So I think it's sort of it's a two-edged sword there. I think the female founders need to work very hard to make themselves visible, and I think VCs, on the other hand, need to do a little more intentional searching, I think. One point I would also make, and this is an important one. It does take a little bit more work on the VC side, because you may get as a partner, you may have scouts bringing in different companies, and if you have a female led business or a female founded business, this is something we also had to do. We were specifically looking for female founded businesses, but then we've got to sort of back into the financial model and comping them against their sector and their region to ensure that they're top of class, right? Just like everyone else, we only want to fill our fund with top of class. I see that as less of a risk. Being a female entrepreneur myself, I feel like it's less of a risk. I think your risk of investing in a team of mediocre men is much more likely than women at this point in time. Maybe in 5 years it'll balance out a little bit, but at the moment, women who are founding tech businesses and actually making it successfully to Series A, much less Series B, these are the cream of the crop. I see it as less of a risk, but being a female myself. And instead, I want to make sure that the data is there and that we're backing into the numbers so that our LPs feel comfortable with the businesses that we've chosen.
So you say that it's less of a risk investing in female founders than male founders, and accounting for risk is a big part of a VC's job, that you need to reduce the risk on the capital you're deploying, right? And you're saying that investing in female founders is less riskier than male founders, right? Why do you think that, and why do you think investing in female founders is investing in the cream?
Yeah, so there's a couple of one. We've got some really interesting reports that have come out earlier this year and even in the last 30 days that show investing in female founders or female-led teams actually brings two times the return of investing in an all-male team. Um, and really to that point, for us, especially investing a little bit at the later stage B, female founders also exit earlier than male founders on average. And the third one, sort of the third reason that I believe that is, we're still waiting for the data to come out on this, but hopefully it will before the end of the year. But what we're seeing, sort of colloquial in the market, is that you tend to see a real resilience and a real sort of strength in the female founders who, against many odds, receiving less than 2% of capital from venture capital investors, struggling with network, with operational issues. You see these female founders overcoming challenge after challenge and still succeeding. So it's a small number, but my argument is that this small number is the cream of the crop. So, we have women who have overcome quite a lot of challenges in order not only to receive capital, but also to land on a healthy valuation, as well as produce and solidify a robust platform in terms of their model.
Right, right, absolutely. And do you think that VCs, who are generalist VCs, are open to investing in all genders? Do you think they have a bias, whether that's a recognized bias or unrecognized bias, towards female founders?
So what we see is a real kind of blind spot when it comes to female founders. So I think that the bias is not necessarily well. We there's two parts to this coin. So one is the blind spot, which means female founded businesses are not always getting on the desk of VCs. So I think we talked a little bit about this already, and the ways that VCs could flip that narrative to see more, to have more deal flow coming from female founders and female led businesses. The gender bias, however, is also present, and it's real. So we've got several founders in our portfolio and in our target portfolio that have point blank said that they've been asked by multiple investors to find a male co-founder. In some instances, they've been asked to find a male chief technology officer. So to me, that is very much a gender bias. In other words, we've also, and let me also make this point. There are also investors who say they like the technology, especially when we're talking about deep tech, robotics, AI. They say they like the technology, but still, before they invest, they want to see a man on the founding team. So to me, I'm not sure the same thing would happen in the reverse. Like, I don't believe these investors would say the same thing to a male founder, asking them to find a female co-founder. So I do see that gender bias. This other type of bias that I've seen that is not as blunt is in when we talk about valuations. So this is a little bit more nuanced, but I have seen several times where founders are sort of settling on a valuation at the pre-seed seed level that we believe is a little bit low. And most of the time, well, it can happen in one of two ways. Either the investors are pushing it down because they see the female founder as a risk. And we've seen this time and time again, where you have a male founder and a female founder with the same business model, but the female founder is seen as a greater risk to the investors. That's a clear bias, and it also affects the valuation. So they might say, yes, we're going to invest, but we believe the valuation, it gets pushed down a little bit. The problem is 2 or 3 years down the road, the same investor might say, I have a remit and that valuation is too low and we can't participate in the add-on. So it's a little bit getting into this cycle. On the other side, it could be the founder. And I've also had this experience myself with female founders who say, yes, but we think this valuation is reasonable. Whereas a male founder is more likely to say, no, we're going to be the next unicorn. Women tend to be a little more reserved on that front and less likely to believe that they are the next unicorn, which affects not only their confidence, but sometimes also their valuation. So for me, that's the real crux of where the bias. So they might not get the funding that they need because of gender bias. They might not get the visibility from VCs that they need because of gender bias. And the third piece is this valuation, which is really important to the success of the funding round.
Yeah, that's kind of unfortunate to learn. But would you say that it's harder for female founders to succeed in respect to the funding and financing aspect because of these biases?
Yeah, I would say it's a combination of these things. It's, of course, and these are all generalizations. You do have outliers, and we see a lot of those outliers. This kind of goes back to the reason why I don't think it's as risky to invest in female founders at the Series B round, because they are the outliers. They're the one that they've overcome those challenges that we've talked about, right? So you have these 3 challenges they've overcome for whatever reason. And usually that's based on having a strong ecosystem or network around them, male and female. And so they've been able to overcome these challenges and make it successfully. So that's why, in many ways, the companies that we talk to, the later we form our relationship, the more likely they are they're on a path to success. And what we're really focused on, especially for our second fund and third fund, is to make sure that we're building our relationships early, so as early as the pre-seed seed stage, so that we can actually help these early stage companies, not necessarily with capital, but with all of the connective tissue that they need to ensure the healthy valuation, to ensure that they have a network of support and an ecosystem to support them operationally, so they can actually achieve Series A, Series B with a robust platform.
Right. That's super interesting. And it's amazing to see how we have kind of established your thesis right here through our conversation itself, why you're investing into Series B stage companies and how it makes sense. So keeping track of companies right from the pre-seed stage, isn't that too early for you to keep track, given that you're investing into Series B? If you were tracking maybe Series A companies or even seed companies, would be quite understandable because you want to build those relationships from there. But isn't pre-seed too early for you to get in touch and build those relationships there?
So it's funny. I get this question a lot, especially from when I see an interesting technology. I also reach out, to founders as well as VCs, because I think I mentioned we're the only female founded VC out there who's investing at the Series B. At least the only one we've found through our research in the U.S. and Europe and Asia. So I get the question from founders as well as VCs who want to introduce us to some of their portfolio companies. Well, isn't it too early? And I say it's never too early. So depending on, and it's never too early for a coffee chat or a 15-minute, quick call to find out a little bit more about the founder and a little bit more about their technology or where their focus is. So for me, if the founder, if we make an immediate connection and the technology is interesting. So my focus is very much on, as a GP, my focus is very much on fintech and deep tech, robotics, AI. I have a second GP who is very focused on climate, and a third GP who is very focused on medtech and biotech. So we have that split, and for me, both, if the technology is already there, whether or not they've got their MVP is a little bit irrelevant to me in terms of my interest level. I'm happy to track where there is a very interesting story. I have a connection with the founder, and the founder is someone that I believe to be resilient, open-minded, curious, able to, with the personality that's able to really shift as the market and technology changes. These are the things I'm looking for in a founder. And if the technology is also there, this would be someone that I want to form a relationship early. And let me make this point as to why. So from my experience, if you looked at VC 10 years ago, you would see less women who were raising, and certainly less women working in VC. And you often heard about a pre-seed friends and family round, but you didn't often hear someone doing a friends and family and or pre-seed and a seed and a Series A. And so I know there are outliers here, but it appears to me that since women have been on the scene and become more active here, we tend to see them pushed into you have to do a pre-seed, you have to do a seed, you have to do a Series A. And my thesis on this point is that women are raising less money at each of those stages. So they run out of their pre-seed and they need to do a seed because they're not ready for A. So they raise less money at the seed than men do. So they've got to go into their Series A or do some kind of bridge quicker. And what happens to women or men who are raising consistently as a founder every year, you get finished with one and you immediately have to start with the other. Burnout is, twice as likely to happen in that scenario. So I see this happening with female founders who we try to push towards doing a larger pre-seed so they don't have to move to seed so quickly, or a larger seed round, forget about pre-seed, and then they can move straight to Series A. So we really push, if we get involved early stage, we push them and introduce them to our ecosystem and to other VCs who do invest at the early stages. And we push them to focus on raising more money so they can have a couple of years reprieve and actually focus on their product and on their business.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's very sound advice for female GPs out there, and even male GPs. I think that you should be raising a sizable amount so that you don't have to consistently be raising and find time to build your startup as well, right? So in your portfolio companies, do you recommend having multiple founders, where maybe having a specific founder who's focused on fundraising and the other founder can be focused on the building the business? Do you advise on that as well?
It's a good question. Unfortunately, I don't think founders have the luxury to have someone who's solely focused on fundraising. And quite frankly, from the GP perspective, we want to talk to all of the founders. So, if you've got 4 founders, we want to talk to all 4 founders. So I do believe that both women and men think, oh, okay, well, if we have 4 founders, then this one can focus. And it's true. You can have 1 or 2 who are sort of on the front and are doing the fundraising and being the face of the company. Whereas you might have but that's always going to be kind of the CEO and the CTO, right? And so you might have 2 of the founders who are able to hang back and take care of the business. But I don't think it's realistic to have a founder whose sole job is fundraising. That's something that everyone has to bear the responsibility.
Absolutely. Amazing. And now let's talk about some of the incredible portfolio female-led startups that you've bagged. So tell us about some exciting startups.
Oh, sure. I'd love to. So these are, and especially just to clarify, so we've actually created an SPV, so we're already investing in our portfolio, but our fund, for all the LPs out there, our fund is still open. We will close at the end of the year, so in December, and then we'll convert our SPV into the fund. But these are a couple. I can tell you a couple of companies that we have a relationship with, and will be investing in the first inaugural fund. One is a U.S.-based company called Nix Biosensors, and they're actually the first biosensor to analyze sweat and provide endurance athletes with personalized hydration data, which is scientifically validated and delivered in real time. So it's a really cool technology that started out with professional athletes. So, they were working with a lot of professional athletes in the US, and now they're moving to market it as well to, folks like you and I, if we were interested in keeping track of our hydration while we exercise or throughout the day. So that's a cool one. Another one is a European-based platform called Impact AI. And this is an agent-driven SaaS solution that's designed to empower AI product managers with intelligent workflows. So it's basically like automated product analysis, LLM evaluation. Everyone's trying to figure out which LLM to use, which chat GPT, Claude, or all the different ones, which one to use, how to use it, how it's actually going to bring value to their business. And this Impact AI acts as a robust command center for LLM-based applications through a single interface. So it simplifies like team coordination, accelerates go-to-market strategies, and reduces the reliance on data scientists, which is also, I think, knowing, speaking to corporates the way I do, this is a real question in their mind, like how many data scientists do we need to now hire or employ for our teams? And I think Impact AI solves for that issue. One other cool one. This is actually a Tel Aviv based company, and it's called Argo Robotics. They actually have a U.S. office, which is which I've actually talked to their U.S. team as well, and they provide modular AI and computer vision software solutions that power machines like forklifts, but can be any types of machines. But their MVP is very much with forklifts, and at the moment they seem to be the only one that is capable of going indoor and outdoor, because up until now you've only been able to use this type of AI with outdoor machines, waterproof, that kind of thing, or indoor. And now they've come up with a technology for both. And it's got, it powers the machines with location aware human level perception, as well as enabling them to see and understand and operate in complex environments. So that's a pretty cool technology that they're talking to automotive companies, but they're also talking to any type of production companies that use large machines on the floor of their warehouses. And the last one that I wanted to mention is called Carbon Pool. This is actually a Swiss-based insurance tech company, and they provide in-kind insurance for failure to achieve net zero commitments due to shortfalls, natural disasters, reversals, or business interruptions. And these either reduce the amount of carbon dioxide removals contracted for, or unintentionally add carbon dioxide back into the atmosphere. So it's a really cool, and I think we've got another year on them because they're in their Series A right now. But we're very interested in having them be part of our second fund.
Yep. Those are some really exciting startups solving important problems. And now let's talk about your portfolio construction strategy at Helena Capital.
Yeah, so we're focused. The first fund is focused on deep tech, so robotics and AI, climate tech, fintech, as well as what we're calling health tech. So that includes some biotech companies as well as med tech companies. So when I look at our current portfolio, we have, I would say, deep tech is the largest of the largest sector for us. However, that being said, they are just being a little bit more. Otherwise, it's very evenly split across 20 companies at the moment. And we're looking in Europe as well as in the U.S. And the makeup is probably 3/4 Europe right now and 1/4 U.S.
Got it. Interesting. And let's talk about the exit pathway. Since you are investing in Series B, what are the different pathways that you explore for your portfolio companies, and also the timelines in which you're expecting an exit on them?
Yeah, sure. So something that we are, when we are pitching to female founders to actually choose us and allow us to lead their Series B, we offer. We're a global firm, so we've got GPs in New York, and we also have GPs in Europe, and we very much offer our ecosystem, which is global. So we're offering for these tech businesses that are ripe for scaling globally. We're offering them not only capital, but also our network to ensure that expansion and that scale either into Asia from Europe, into the US from Europe, or US to Europe, US to Asia, vice versa. So we're offering our services to make sure that they're able to scale appropriately. So that's kind of the big draw, I think, for the female founders that choose to work with us, is that when they say we're ready, we have done all we can do on our continent, we're ready to scale across the pond, then we're the ones, we want to be the female founder's choice for that expansion. So when we talk about timelines, the assumption is by the time they reach Series B, they are ready for that global expansion. We will help them do that through our network, through our operating advisors, our venture partners. We get very high touch operating assistance, as well as we can help to embed executives or sales team. We're there to help them recruit, to help them scale their business, open up in other in other countries to operate, that kind of thing. So we foresee that piece of it, just the scaling, as kind of a 2 to 3 year process. And depending on the size of the Series B round, we hope that they'll be able to make it to Series D, or at least have a runway to Series D, whereas that scaling is complete by the time they get to Series D. But what we are imagining is very much sort of a 3 to 5 year scaling plan, depending on into which region they're going or how many regions. But in terms of exit, most of our current portfolio companies are already in relationships with either a large strategic or multiple strategics. So we see an exit to a strategic as a very probable. And I would say we were intentional about that in our first fund. That being said, we do have a handful who would very much like to IPO. So I would say if for our LPs, we're looking at anywhere from sort of a 5 to 7 year timeline.
Right. That's great. And moving to the last main question before we do the rapid fire round, and this is about what needs to be done to further support female-led startups. You're doing your bit, but what can we do as an ecosystem?
Yeah. So I mentioned this a little bit earlier in the conversation, but I really believe that it has to be intentional from the part of the VCs. And, I believe that female founders are doing everything that they can. So, you're seeing more and more of them on LinkedIn. You're seeing them, trying to improve their personal branding at the same time that they're improving their company's branding. So I would really put it on the VCs to say, like, take a look at yourselves, right? Be a little more self-aware. I've talked to quite a few male VCs who tell me they actually, in the last 2 years, have recruited scouts who are only, their only remit is to look for female-founded businesses. I think this is the number one best way to start discovering them, is to actually have somebody on staff who's looking for female-founded businesses. Because if you think about your ecosystem and where your deal flow is coming from, it's going to be coming from the same folks you've been successful with. And if you haven't been investing in female founders, and you're probably not going to get any female founders landing on your desk. One VC partner said to me, he has zero problem finding female founders because his partner is female. So there's just the two of them. And he said female founders flock to her. They see her on the website and they reach out. So thinking about hiring or promoting females to partner and having a female partner is a surefire way to get more visibility into female founders. And I mentioned this earlier, including one or more females on the investment committee, if that isn't already the case. So just kind of increasing the number of females in the ecosystem is a great way to sort of uncover. And I think probably the last thing, that's if in case a VC is doing all of those wonderful things already, I hear this a lot from female founders and also from male founders. But as investors, I think sometimes VCs take the path that says, or the attitude that says, well, I've invested my capital, how much more? Or I don't really have the time to invest much more of my time. And I think for female founders, that's tough because men tend to build out their professional network a little bit quicker and a little more robustly than women do. And so I would say, keep an eye out for those female founders. maybe introduce them to either folks like us or introduce them to groups like the Women in Venture Capital European group, or there's lots of female founder groups. But if you are going to invest in a female founder, it's important that she also has the support of a bigger ecosystem. So yeah, those are all things that I think are fairly painless for VCs to do.
Right, right. Those are some great points there and somewhat easy to implement, right? Now let's do the rapid fire round wherein I'll ask you 6 quick questions about the investing you're doing at Helena Capital, and you have to give 6 quick answers, right?
Okay.
So the first one is, what are the sectors and regions you invest in?
Okay. First fund is US and Europe, and we're in deep tech, robotics and AI, health tech, which is biotech and medtech, climate tech, and fintech.
Awesome. And what's the typical stage you invest in?
Series B and beyond.
Okay. Do you lead rounds?
We do. We are the first female VC, female-led VC to lead at the Series B stage.
Awesome. What's the typical check size you put in?
Typical is between 8 and 10 million.
Great. Where can founders get in touch if there's a direct way?
Sure. They can actually send us an email at team@helenacapital.vc.
Awesome. Last one. Where can our listeners follow you?
So I would love it if people would go to the Helena Capital LinkedIn page and follow our page. They can also follow me on LinkedIn, Sarah Antor.
Awesome. I'll make sure to put all those links in the show notes below. Thanks so much for making time for this, Sarah. I love the work that you're doing, and it's very needed.
Fantastic. No,
Thanks
I
so
thank you
much.
so much for the opportunity. Thank you.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you.